So let me introduce you to this principle up here called a BFO, which stands for a blinding flash of the obvious. So the way that I would say it is I don't know if you've ever had that moment where it's like, oh my gosh, it was right in front of me the whole time. Uh, Maybe you've gone to the pantry and you're looking for something, and I get told I go sometimes and have what's called a boy look and don't look closely enough, but the whole time the salt's been right there in front of me and I just didn't see it. Another way to say it is sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, right? And it's one of the great things about coaching is it actually draws us back out to the macro so that we can actually get a better picture and actually go and see some things. And I don't know how many times I've had it where as we're talking through business or I'm coaching with someone and someone just says, my gosh, that is just so obvious. I don't know how I've ever seen that, right? So think about where have you had a blinding flash of the obvious. So let me give you a couple of real life business examples of this. So there's quite a famous one that back in the 80s, there was a toothpaste company, right? And they'd had for many, many years, very, very consistent, but they hadn't had any more than 5 or 6% growth over many, many years, over multiple decades of the business being in existence. And they were off and they were hiring a new CEO for that business, right? And they were advertising $500,000 as the salary. And they got a bunch of applicants, and one of the applicants said, so folks, what I don't want 500,000 as a salary, I actually want 1.5 million as a salary. And of course, the board said to this potential CEO, please validate why are you worth 1.5 million? And his response was, because I'm going to increase production revenue sales by 20% in the first 6 months. And of course, the board said, that's never been done in the history of the company. How do you propose to do it? And he said, well, you've got to hire me and then I'll go off and show you, right? But I'm not going to tell you unless I get the Guernsey. So they went off and took a punt and hired him, and it came in. Now, on his very first day, instead of going up to the top level, up to the executive boardroom where the CEO is supposed to sit, he went straight to the factory floor and went and saw the chief engineer who did the design of the tubes. And he said to the engineer, Mr. Engineer, what I want you to do is I want you to make the diameter of the hole where the toothpaste comes out 20% larger, right? I essentially just want you to make it bigger. They hadn't changed the shape or anything of that in their whole number of decades. So essentially, as they squeezed the toothpaste, 20% more toothpaste came out on the toothbrush. So that people used it 20% quicker, and they got a 20% uplift in sales. So he went and executed it, right? Very, very basic strategy, but there it was right there in front, a BFO where we could have gone and done that, right? I actually saw a news article on this one a number of years ago about a truck that this was down in one of our major cities in Australia. It was at a city in Melbourne where the truck went under an overpass and it was too low. It was a railway line that got stuck, and they had all this traffic, all these different people in there to try and, how are we going to get it out? What are we going to do? How are we going to offload the truck and try and push the sides of the truck down? And then this one guy came along and said, I know how to get the truck out. And they said, well, how do you do it? And all he did was he went and let the tyres down of the truck. Let the tyres down, reversed the truck out. It was the most blinding flash of the obvious. It was complete. But people get so in it that they don't go and see the simple pathway there. So folks, question for you is, what are you missing in the business? So where's the BFO going to come for you? Is it somewhere in the front end of the business, marketing, sales? Is it somewhere in pricing? Is it somewhere in systemization? Is it somewhere about people, structure, wealth? Where's it going to come? And one of the best ways to do it is to go off and do a whole bunch of good quality critical thinking. I'm going to talk more about that on another video. But keep a very close eye out for BFOs. My last little point on this one is, when you have one, that's always an interesting piece. So often my BFOs come at night time. So I'll get them like, in the middle of the night or early in the morning, and it's like, wow. And I never used to write them down. And of course, I'd come back and go, what was that? What was that idea that I had, right? So little bullet point on this one is have a BFO notebook, phone, note in your phone somewhere that when you have them, please write them down, because they do come and they do go again, right? But keep an eye out for BFOs. I can assure you we're going to have a whole bunch across the coaching journey. When you get them, acknowledge them so that you can go and replicate. All right, have fun with BFOs.